when I think of becoming the person, you want to become the person that's really open to learning new awareness things, not just, oh, I already know that. I already know that. The IAKT can get you in trouble because there's a difference between knowing and doing. And if you know something, you haven't done it, there's actually no difference between you knowing it and not knowing it if you haven't done it, right? And I think it's very important that knowing about something is different than understanding, because once we understand, we can then take action and execute and get the results. But it starts with awareness, and it certainly does not stop at knowledge. It starts with understanding and then applying, going back to doing the thing, becoming aware to do the thing.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Experiment Nation, what is going on? Your host, Ruben Kanya here. We are back in the lab, and I have to say, I'm very excited for this episode. And if you've noticed, depending on where you're listening to this, we have a new branding, and we've actually renamed the show In the Lab with Ruben Kanya. Why? I will tell you shortly. And this comes right after our 300th episode milestone. So if you're listening to this, this could be 301, 302. I'm not quite sure. I think it's coming right after the 300th. This should be 302. We've officially rebranded because after 300 experiments, which you can listen to in episode 301, I want to have a bigger scope of what we cover here in the lab. And if you've been in the journey with me, and if you listened to my last episode, you know a little bit about my background, my journey, which is full of experiments. And so my goal is to continue to broaden the scope of experiments from mindset, wealth, real estate, and of course, lifestyle. So with that said, yours truly is here. And I'm actually excited because we just got back from the Midterm Rental Wealth Conference. It is the third one that I've attended, and co-hosted with my partner, Dr. Rachel Gainsborough, and it is her fourth one. And every time we sync up together in the flesh with our community, it is something completely magical, right? So with that said, I want to come and share some insights with you about a very important topic that I always open up the midterm mental wealth retreat that we have with the mindset session. And I want to share a little bit of that with you because I think it's really important that it's in the forefront of all of our experiments. It's actually, we lead with the mindset, we lead with the right paradigm to then be able to execute the experiments. And one of the talks that I gave actually for the first pre-day of the retreat is around this concept that I decided to name the episode after, which is be, do, have. Who is the person you need to become to do the thing, to then have the thing? And it starts with the mindset. It starts with the right paradigm. And if you've heard me talk about it before, you can't hear it enough. It is critical for you to do the thing, right? I mean, we often hear, and sometimes the question is asked, will this work for me? And the question I would reframe is, have you become the person that is ready to receive the output that you're looking to get by, and have you become the person that's ready to actually get the result? All right, have you become the person that it's going to work for? That's the question you should be asking yourself, and that's why it always starts with that, because at the end of the day, all these are just ideas. And whether it's going to the moon or flying a plane or driving a car, which seems so simple, but again, you forget how hard it was or how scary it was to get behind the wheel for the first time, how you couldn't even stay in a straight line, how you couldn't tie your own shoe before. These were all ideas that then you were able to overcome or bring to fruition or bring to reality after you became the person that was ready to do the thing to then have the thing. And so it's really important that we start there. I want to talk to you about kind of like a few of the topics that we covered during the Midterm Rental Wealth Retreat, and as well as a theme that I think transitioned into the week, um, that I really want to share with you. One of my goals is to be as transparent as possible and bring you real life case studies and updates, right? So, for example, I just did a master class this past week on a contract we just closed on. Now, if you're asking me, Ruben, how do you know that you're going to close on these contracts, and how have you been able to close on these insurance contracts back to back to back to back to back? And it's the person I had to become first, and it's the person I had to be was one that was open to a new mindset, a new reality. One of the examples that I always talk about and that I go to is I think it's pretty fascinating that multiple investors can look at the exact same asset and have a different strategy for the exact same asset on the exact same street on the exact same block. The exact same asset can be looked at differently, and here's my favorite part, can generate different kind of income based on the knowledge that you have between your two ears, right? By your mindset. And one of the things that I would say is, if you're trying to get, I literally just posted this on my Instagram this morning, to for the interest of motivation. If you desire to duplicate any form of human excellence, find somebody who is experiencing excellence in that arena and then model them. And the reason that's so important, when we talk about modeling, there's there's a few things that you can do, right? It's one thing to plant a new seed in your mind, but it's another one to be able to borrow that mental syntax that's required. And one of the ways to do that, or I said three of the ways to do that, is number one, you want to model someone's belief system, right? When we talk about the quote I just said, right? If you desire to duplicate any form of human excellence, you find somebody who is experiencing the excellence in that arena and model them. Well, how do you model them? Well, number one, you model their belief system. Number two, then you model their physiology, right? How do they actually react to this when they're in this situation, right? And then number three, you model their mental syntax. And I think that's so important, because when we think of mentorship, when we think of going to these events, when we think of going to these retreats, it's to borrow the belief system. It's to plant new ideas, to get a new paradigm. And a paradigm is a multitude of ideas fixed in the subconscious mind. So when you have a new paradigm, you then have a new belief system, and a new belief system helps you have new behaviors to again a and for lack of better words, it's a new behavior to an existing a stimulant, for lack of better words, and or I would even say it's a new behavior to the same old condition. And that's what learning is about, right? Learning is about, condition, same condition, new behavior. And I actually borrowed that from Alex Hormozy. I love how he talks about this, and because it's 100% true. If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you always got. But if you plant a new idea, now when there's going to be that exact same condition from before, you'll have a new behavior, and that's learning, that's knowledge, that's wisdom. And you can borrow that wisdom, you can borrow that belief from someone who's been there before, even if you don't believe in it. And that's exactly why you need to have mentors, because you can borrow their belief system. In a situation where you feel super nervous, you'll feel very confident because you're borrowing their confidence, or they're telling you that you should feel confidence. They're telling you that you should feel great about this. You should not be nervous. You should move forward. You should do the deal. You should sign the contract. You should put in an offer. You should, right? You're borrowing their belief. And when you borrow their belief, if you borrow enough, just like pretending, acting, method acting, you're actually becoming the person that's doing the thing. And therefore, because you're doing the thing, then you become the person that's ready to receive the result. Right. So it's fascinating in that sense that even if you were to pretend to be somebody, you could to and then do the thing, you would then get the thing. So my best advice I could say is, when we think of what would so and so do, what would so and so do, think about who that so and so is for you. Who is the who, right? That you need to become, that will then model the thing that that person will do to get the output. Because once you do that, you will become the person that's receiving the result. And that's what's so fascinating about all this, right? It's like we don't even have to be the person. We can pretend to be the person, and by law, we'll get the thing, right? Now, obviously, it's not just as simple as just manifesting and thinking and not doing the thing. Manifesting is a opens up the door to doing the thing, to then having the thing. And you can manifest that you are already that person, that you are that person today. You speak into the present of who the person is you want to become, right? That's why all my goals are in the present. I'm happy and grateful now that, right? That's from Bob Proctor. He talks about, because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is not. So if I say it and I speak it into existence, then I'm acting it into existence. I'm acting like the person that I'm not already, and then I can start receiving the blessings that the person would be ready to, that would be receiving by doing the thing that they would do. Action takers are money makers. So with that said, we do have one of the things that I want to highlight. Um, that was, I think, that really just something that I highlighted during my opening up discussion, was around the transformation, right? So what is transformation? And all of this is stuff that I study. So I'm constantly studying transformation. That's why you're in the lab with me, because we're cooking. So transformation, think of the acronym AID. AIDD. Number one, transformation is a result of four things. And number one, it's awareness, right? Number two, it's intention. Number three, it's decision. And number four, it's discipline. So awareness is one of my favorite ones, because you don't know what you don't know. So there's I think it's unconscious competence. Um, and so it's really important that you are aware of what you're not aware of. And that happens by stepping into that arena of of new ideas flowing in, right? New ideas, new insights, to get a new paradigm. And I think that's as important. This is why I love constantly learning, because there's so much out there that when you learn it, and you're like, I cannot believe I didn't know this. And what I love is, when you learn, you can't unlearn it, right? A mind that's been expanded can no longer go back to its old state, right? To its old measures, right? You've kind of expanded, you've opened up a new door. And that's what I love about awareness. So when I think of becoming the person, you want to become the person that's really open to learning new awareness things, not just, oh, I already know that. I already know that. The IAKT can get you in trouble, because there's a difference between knowing and doing. And if you know something, you haven't done it, there's actually no difference between you knowing it and not knowing it if you haven't done it, right? And I think it's very important that knowing about something is different than understanding, because once we understand, we can then take action and execute and get the results. But it starts with awareness, and it certainly does not stop at knowledge. It starts with understanding and then applying, going back to doing the thing, becoming aware to do the thing. So a good example of that, we talk about the two-door strategy, which is Dr. Rachel's coined term of her hybrid between short-term rentals and midterm rentals. Where mine, it's the midterm rental insurance niche that I love. Is that's an awareness that if you don't know about it, the same asset that an investor is looking at, right? I talk about multiple investors looking at the exact same property with different outcomes. One might look at it as a single family home, primary residence. The other looks at it as a single family home, a traditional long-term investments, long-term tenant in there. Another one has the awareness that you can do short-term rentals in that county, does the short-term rentals, and aka Airbnb, gets Airbnb money. Another person has the awareness of midterm rentals because they come from the travel nurse world, etc. That's their paradigm. They do a midterm rental, they get a midterm rental number outcome. And then there's someone who does midterm rentals insurance like myself, who has that awareness, who gets a very different result. And all of those results that actually turn into money, monetary amount, same asset type, are all stem from awareness. And I'll leave it at that because it's that critical for you to think about. Now, what are some other areas where I lack awareness? That's the question I would ask you. And the truth is, a lot of areas, just like myself, I'm constantly figuring out that all I know is that I am not aware about a lot of things. And my goal in the lab, as you think about being in the lab with me, is to get to the source and be as aware as possible. Because when you're aware, you can then start to ask the right questions, right? So, awareness is number one. Number two, it's intention. So, when we think of intention, it's the very thing that leads to um, essentially, and again, one of the things that I talked about too at the retreat was looking up what words actually mean, right? And the word intention means a thing intended, an aim or plan, which I love, right? Due to awareness, it allows you to set a new intention, right? Intention is a thing you set to do, a plan, and then now you take action against that plan with the knowledge that you have because you had the awareness. And because you had the awareness, you now have a plan to work towards this new level of awareness to then take action to then get the result. And that's why I love that one. It's awareness, intention, and then number three, decision, which is my favorite one because we've been taught, right? And this is where we need to unlearn this habit. We've been taught that we need to have all the information before we make a decision. And that simply could not be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, my biggest lesson learned in 2024, with the help of my mindset coach, shout out to Dave Conway, shout out to Bob Proctor, right? Uh, you know, all my mentors, coaches, etc. It actually starts with the decision. And once you figure that out, once you realize that it's actually not the other way around, most people need all the information, all the details, the entire path, the entire plan to make a decision. And that leads to indecision because they don't have all the facts. You will never have all the facts. You will never be ready. But once you make a decision and you decide and you put that before the how, you do the what first. What is the decision? The how will figure itself out after you made the decision. Why? Well, this actually opens up one of my favorite quotes. It says, "What this power is, I cannot say. All I know is that it exists and only becomes available when a man is in that state of mind in which he knows exactly what he wants and is determined not to quit until he finds it." That is by um, Alexander Graham Bell, the founder of Bell. If you guys know the phone company, um, that is unbelievable, right? Think about that. So you need to decide first, then the rest will figure itself out. I was actually just talking to this with one of my mastermind members today, right? It's make a decision first. You commit, and then you will figure it out, right? And people have a problem with that. But if you start thinking about a lot of stuff that have been groundbreaking, transformation, breakthroughs, people had to make a decision. And usually people do this when there's trauma that's faced. When their backs are against the wall, when someone in your family passes away, or you lose your job, or somebody gets sick, you make a decision real quick that you're going to be the person that they're going to be able to count on. And because you make that decision, you usually pull yourself through the trauma. You usually pull yourself through whatever event it was. It's usually the turning point. That's because trauma leads to a decision. And until people are not in a position where they need to make an executive decision to move forward into a new lane or a new career or jump into that thing they've always wanted to do, until there's comfort, you will never make that decision. And therefore it's really important for you to understand the power of making a decision, because you can write it down today. You can make a decision today by listening to this, that enough is enough, or this is it, this is what I'm doing. I'm done with collecting facts, collecting all the data. I'm making a decision, right? Experiment Nation, you've heard the word MTR, midterm rentals, as it is currently a hot topic and hot commodity right now, because again, there has been an increase in short-term rental regulations, and there also has been, let's face it, a slowdown in what we were experiencing a couple years back when it comes to bookings. So with that said, short-term rental operators are looking for alternative solutions to tap into the midterm rental space. However, there is a space, there is a sub niche of midterm rental insurance that I'm truly excited about, that I want to share with you, that the experience that we've had, the tremendous results we've been able to have, and that's the insurance midterm rental space, which is very different than your traditional midterm rentals. When you think of traditionally midterm rentals, you think of travel nurses. There is a space, midterm rental insurance space, that we've tapped in, where you need to be well connected with insurance and relocation specialists and companies, and understand the right type of asset required for you to be able to help these families. What's really important, that stands out the most, which you can get in what I'm about to offer you, is the understanding where to be found by these insurance companies, how to properly manage your calendar so that your listings are optimized so that they can find you, how to actually gain traction and build a relationship with these relocation insurance companies. I've put together an MTR insurance blueprint. That's MTRR insurance blueprint to cover these foundations after we've had success landing very large contracts on single family homes that literally 4x what we traditionally make in long-term rentals, and also gives us peace of mind because there's less turnover and 100% occupancy, because these contracts can start anywhere from 30 days to 3 months to 8 months and range anywhere from, again, we've landed anywhere from $8,000 to $9,000 a month in per month on a single family home property, which our mortgages are typically around the 2,400 range, which then gives you a large spread of anywhere from 4 to 6K net on just one property. And this is why it's very hot right now. But people who haven't been in the lab with individuals like myself, like Jesse Vasquez and Dr. Rachel Gainsborough and Noble Crawford, don't have the foundations and don't know exactly where to start. And therefore, this is why I'm giving you guys a blueprint, the MTRR insurance blueprint. Go to the website, experimentrealestate.com, and get yourself a blueprint to completely change, or at least have a plan B if you're a short-term rental operator looking to maximize your occupancy and profitability. We'll see you on the other side. So that's all done. And then the second D is discipline, right? Now, if you Google the word discipline, it says is the quality of being able to behave and work in a controlled way, which involves obeying particular rules or standards. Repetition, self-control, stay the course, trust the process. That's what discipline is, right? Everything works if you do the work, but most people don't have the discipline to outperform the work that needs to be done for them to get the result, right? When something's not working, it's not that, it doesn't work. It's working on you, right? It's working on you for you to be the big person that's ready to receive the output or the outcome on the other side. So it must work on you before it can work for you. And we often struggle with consistency and discipline, right? This show, for example, we're on 302 episodes. A lot of people who don't make it past episode When starting a show, 10, 20, 30. What's your threshold, right? Well, I made a decision I was going to make this show. And so I stuck with it. And there's a lot of things that opened up along the way that I couldn't have imagined. But I had to make a decision, and then I had to stay disciplined to do it every single week. Every single week. It's the boring stuff that gets the result too. And there's nothing sexy about discipline. I mean, I like it if you're into that, right? But this is where people struggle. They look at a deal, doesn't work. They look at number 2 deal, doesn't work. They have a bad deal, maybe that they bought, and they're like, oh, real estate doesn't work. It's not for me. It wasn't meant to be. It's just all part of the journey. What lessons are you going to take from that bad deal? Something that went south, a communication with your neighbor, tenant, something didn't go well. Is that going to push you out, or is that going to add another win to the tool belt, add another lesson? That's what you need to think about, right? So some of us want to have the result before become the person that's ready to receive the blessing. You stick it with the discipline. You don't put this is a new thing for me. I haven't really heard of this, but one of my mentors mentioned how they don't have a deadline to a goal, which is interesting because they thought it would, it will happen when it happens. And also almost not having a deadline almost forces you to keep pushing until it works, because you've already made the decision, right? So why are you setting a goal for the end? Are you saying that if this doesn't happen in a year, you're going to quit? And then if you say it's going to happen in a year, it's almost like Parkinson's law. It will take as much time as you'll allocate the time for it to take. So that one's a new one to me, and when I still need to revisit and rethink and restudy. But it makes sense, right? Because if you tell yourself it's going to take 3 years, I might tell you it could take 3 weeks. But you're telling yourself it's going to take 3 years, therefore it's going to take 3 years. So is it in your best interest to set a deadline? Because some of us, underestimate what we actually overestimate what we can do in a year, but then underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. That was like another quote that I heard before, and I thought that was really neat. If you think about that concept, that's pretty neat. So no boxes, no limits. So what was really neat too, I'm not going to go through my whole be, do, have, but I think those 4 transformational bring the point home. 4 ways to transform: awareness, number 2, intention, number 3, decision, and number 4, discipline. I think if you take those and you make them core pillars, don't see why you can't win. You're going to be aware. You're going to be aware for the right thing. You're going to be aware for the right mentor. You're going to be have the intention set towards that path. You're going to borrow their belief system. And now that you're aware, after you've made the decision that this is what you want to do, then you're going to have the discipline to keep going until you get the goal. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Right? One of the things that we talked about that is really important, and I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Michael Alafante used to always say this, is start with where you're at. But most people, they kind of lose sense, and they're thinking of, well, this person's that far and I'm this far. And so therefore it doesn't really make any sense for them. Like when you think of the overall journey that you're on. But one of my buddies, what Michael said, he said, well, start with where you're at, right? Start with where you're at. Everyone has a different starting point, but where's your starting point? What can you leverage today in this new awareness that you have in strategy? It's really important for you to be aware of what that means for you. Where do you start? Because eventually this helps us come up with the intention and the plan, right? And so one of the exercises that we did is, funding the dream. Where is my money? And sometimes we don't even think creatively of where is my money? Where is the money that I'm going to use for this deal? Where is it hidden? Who has it? Who's got my money, right? one of the famous Grant Cardone lines, right? Who's got my money? Think about that. Do you have a 401k? Do you have a savings account you're not even thinking about? Do you have stocks? Do you have equity in your property? One more time for the people in the back. Do you have equity in your existing property, even your primary residence that's just sitting there and you never really thought about tapping into it? But now that you have this level of awareness that you could do the midterm rental insurance play, that you can take the money out and invest it and get a high return on your investment and make the money back, maybe you run that play because you have that awareness and now you have an intention, and then you make a decision, and then you're disciplined enough until you find the right deal that gets you the return that you're looking for, to then give you the time freedom that you've been looking for, that gives you that freedom lifestyle that you've always wanted. Maybe it's right in front of you, but it's really not in front of you because it's not on your radar. It's not on your reticular activating system because you are not aware. How about that? So, where is my money is a big exercise that I would highly encourage you to do. There is money, whether it's in your account, whether in somebody else's account, there's money around. Who can you ask? Who, not how, that could give you access to that capital, right? Who could you convince? People, by the way, are only going to be convinced if you're convinced, right? Like, this is why making the decision so important, because once you've made a decision and someone can see that fire in your eyes and they see it in your action, one more time, not just in your head, because you make a decision, now you're taking action. Now you're looking at deals. Now you're going to meetups. Now you're shaking people's hands. Now you're giving, and you're identifying yourself as a real estate investor, and you're doing all these things. How can someone not believe in you? People don't give money to the project. People give money to people. And if that person is convinced enough and not even, you don't even need to convince me. I just need to be convinced that you're convinced in yourself. And that is the biggest gap, because most people who lack confidence and confide, the words confide means to trust in. Most people don't trust in themselves. Therefore, they don't make the right decisions. And because they don't confide in themselves and are not making the right decisions, they never make a decision. And because they have indecision, then they don't become the person that does the thing to then have the thing. Y'all get what I'm putting down? Very important. It's all tied together. And so, where is my money? Someone is going to be willing to give you money if you're convincing enough, and convinced in yourself of your plan, and you have a clear path where you're going. And remember, everything works if you do the work. If you take the action takers are money makers. Therefore, that's where the discipline comes in. And again, full circle moment. Where's my money? Where's your money? More importantly, right? Number 3 is analysis, which is, we talked about analysis a lot, analyzing deals, which is fascinating because people will struggle with, where am I going to invest? And instead of telling somebody where you should invest, our goal in a retreat as such is to teach people how to think, not what to think. If I tell you this is the market and you don't understand why, this is often why there's people in the marketplace who are like, why did you buy this deal? Because my realtor told me it was a good deal. Do you know how to run a deal? Do you know how to put a deal in airdna.co and see what numbers make sense? Are you familiar with the 15 and 50% rule, which means 50% of the occupancy in that market, the occupancy in the market you're looking at should have more than 50% occupancy. That's a good rule of thumb. And when you do the napkin math, does that property generate more than 15% of the worth of that property, right? So if a property is worth $1 million, does it generate 150K, right? A year. That's the thought process, right? Then that gets them closer to your making a decision on whether this is a good deal or not. If those two things don't check out, we don't move forward. Now, you guys know I have a buy box, which I've shared many times on my mastermind, my boot camps, my free webinars. There's a specific property that works, right? For 4-bedroom plus, fenced in backyard, bungalow, for mobility and access. Stay away from carpet. I want it to be pet friendly. I like 5-bedroom, 4 bedrooms or plus, but really let's just say 4 plus across the board. A garage, carport, back deck, in a place where folks can be entertained. I mean, these are just few of some of the core criteria that I'm looking at so that when I make a deal or when I'm looking at a deal, I can make a very quick decision based on all of the above criteria. So it's really important that you understand what your analysis foundation is and what is going to help you move fast. Remember, speed is the name of the game in everything that we do. If we're taking time, if it takes us 2 years to buy one deal because we don't have a blueprint in place, that's how you know that you need to invest in yourself and get yourself a mentor so that you can borrow from their belief system, their mental syntax, and their physiology. What would they do? How would they treat a specific deal in a specific way? Would they pass on this deal? Would they jump on the deal? You need to borrow that from them because that's slowing you up, right? In time, wealth is determined by how quickly you can make decisions and make money, and with respect to time. So investing yourself is key. um Having people on site that invested to be there, and then every time we do a retreat we give an opportunity for folks to work with us. Let me tell you something about investing yourself. One of the things one of my coaches told me, my high ticket coach, shout out to Den Henry. One of the things he had taught me was the reason he sells high ticket prices so that people will pay attention, because when people don't pay, they don't pay attention. And trust me, I've done it. I've given access to very close friends to my mastermind. There's a very high ticket, high investment mastermind, and they don't show up. They don't pay attention because they didn't have to exchange and have the burden of making a big investment to then pay attention. Because remember the pressure that I talked about? That's one way to do it. The reason my mastermind is at the price that it's at, which is a big investment, is so that you will commit and you will show up. If I don't, you won't. And so the price is actually more for you than it is for me. Of course, I want to charge high ticket because of the people that I end up attracting, anyways. And of course, it makes more money, but it's also that commitment level. I can't tell you enough how it's a very different experience, night and day, from someone who pays something that's $97 versus someone that pays something that's $19,000, right? And so when you start thinking about that, are you becoming the person that's ready to do the thing, like go out and make a big investment, the biggest investment since maybe you've made since going to college or community college or anything where you made a big investment before? It's like, oh wow, that was a lot of money. Okay, great. Well, now will you pay attention? You probably will, right? And so I actually strategically put myself in those positions where I am putting down a lot of money, because I know that if I put down a lot of money and I don't do the work, then really who am I kidding? Like, now I've robbed myself twice of my time, my commitment, and most important, who I am as a person. I've robbed from myself. So it's really important that, we really start to think about, why it's so important. Quite frankly, it's a requirement to jump to the next level, right? Become the person that's willing to make the big investment in yourself to then do the thing, to then have the thing that you want, by having made the decision up front that that's what you want to do. All right. So another thing too, being back in town, I had to have some crucial conversations that most people aren't willing to have with your team. Whether you're coming in out of town, it's good to do a quality assurance or have someone do the quality assurance, or the person doing the thing, because people get complacent. And one of the things you have to do as a business owner is be ready to have Crucial Conversations. That's actually a very good book, Crucial Conversations. I forget who it's by, but a very good book. And it's like a white and red book. And so have the crucial conversation. Keep in mind that you are the client, you're the person that you hired them. It's important that you set the tone. And one of my favorite lines from Robert Herjavec is, don't mistake my kindness for weakness, right? Especially when you're out of state. It's not a matter of if someone will take advantage of you, it's when they take advantage of you, when you're not on site and they start to cut corners. It's also human nature to be complacent. It's not an excuse. Hold your team accountable, hold your vendors accountable, and let them know that tomorrow's confidence and trust, etc., is not promise. It's based on what you do today. It's based on what you did yesterday. but we're all going to hold you accountable every single day, and we're going to revisit our relationship if we need to. Right. And I'll leave it at that. I think it's really important for you to just set those metrics. And one of the best things you can do is have somebody else be your eyes. Right. So when you have a cleaner, higher quality insurance person, pay them like $50, to randomly come in, check in here and there. Maybe they do it monthly. Maybe they do it after every clean. I think it's good to have them randomly pop up there. They understand your workflow. They understand how things are actually supposed to look, and they're pretending. They're saying, what would I be looking for if I were staying here? Was there anything that I'd be not happy with? Because it's good. It's just so important to hold the team accountable. Trust me, we've been burned before, but people that we trusted, and certainly won't be the last. You and whoever gets burned certainly will not be the first, and you will not be the last. Okay, so with that said, I talked about deciding and figure it out. I can't stress that enough. What are you deciding now before Q1 of next year starts, before Q4 wraps up, before people go on vacation? What is it that you're deciding on now? What is it that you're going to do? Right. And then one vulnerable thing right here, right? I got stuck this week. So I was stuck on this financing thing that I'm working on. And one of the things to think about when you're stuck, and one of the quotes that I want to borrow from, or that I want to share with you, that I heard at the retreat is, and when you're overwhelmed, you're not asking the right questions. When you're overwhelmed, you're not asking the right questions. Shout out to Annette Forbes, because when she said that, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, ooh, that's really true, right? Like anytime you think you're stuck, you're overwhelmed, it's because you're not asking the right question. Like, okay, who is the who that can help me? Who Not How is a really good book. If you haven't read it yet, by Dan Sullivan, Dr. Benjamin Hardy as well. Huge, because if you can then be aware of it, that you have an issue, right? Aware that there is someone who actually might have the answer. Go to the who, not how. They'll give you clarity and you can execute. And again, that's why I have mentors. I reached out to my mentor this week. I said, here's, I'm stuck. I know that when I'm not taking action, there's something that I don't know. That means there's a conflict in belief. My paradigm is fighting. There's something my paradigm is telling me that's preventing me from taking action. I need to borrow your insight. I need to borrow your belief system. I need to borrow your physiology. I need to borrow your mental syntax. Coach, what do I need to do? And he told me exactly what I need to do, right? Another thing about who is, I was stuck in a situation. I wanted to get insight from my CPA, which I will definitely share about. And as soon as you get these documents signed, and he gave me insight that I didn't know about, right? Which I will definitely share when that comes through. But I think it's just having that level of awareness of, I'm stuck. Who is the who that I need to go to, or who is the who that the who will recommend? So you go to the right who first, and then say, who do you know could help in this? And they'll help you, right? And being stuck, don't feel, do not get stuck. You can even use, with now AI, ask AI who they would ask. That's a good, like, when the who doesn't know, ask the who the right who is. Like, ask Chat GPT who they would ask. Be like, act as a consultant right now in this specific situation. Who would you ask? And then get it from there. Again, don't be stuck. And one of my things that my coach said, because this is very frustrating, and when you're coaching and you see that you have a level of awareness, but then you see, unfortunately, that the person's paradigm won't overcome that awareness. They won't borrow your belief system. My coach said, Ruben, it's easy to make $1 million. Mind you, he's made $1 million in a day. But he's like, it's harder to get out of your own way. It's harder to get out of your own way. It's easy to make $1 million. It's harder to get out of your own way. So I'll say, in order to get out of your own way, make sure that you have a guide that's helping you along the way. And if you've been listening to this and you happen to be in the space where you're looking to get into the midterm rental insurance space, you've heard my podcast, you've heard my shows, you've maybe attended a boot camp here and there, but you still are struggling with closing the gap, of course, we can help. That's what we specialize in. So if that's the case, make sure you go to my website and go to experimentrealestate.com/submit. And we can see how we can help to see if you're a good fit, because we only work with people who, the best people that or at least get the results that we've been working with, are people who've already consumed this level of content, have a level of awareness, are again aware, have the level of awareness, have intention, take action. That's usually best fit. Usually, if I start hearing some things about I need to have it all figured out before I make the decision, I definitely try coach as much as I can, but I can also tell when you're not ready to be the person that's going to do the thing to have the thing. I will openly tell you that I don't think this is a fit for you, not because it doesn't work, just because you're not ready to become the person that it will work for. Okay. So with that said, be, do, have, become the person that does the thing and gets the thing. Experimentation, just like that. Appreciate you. We are out.
Experimentation. I believe there are two critical components that will help you achieve your goals very quickly and succeed. Number one, it's information like this that you received on a show, in an episode, and content that you can find on my YouTube channel or anybody's channel. And then there's a community. And the way we've been able to expedite our process, the way people in our community, people that we consult, mastermind members, whoever, they get the information on an episode like this, but then they also have the support, whether it's me guiding them or being guided through a community. There is an opportunity for you listening to be able to expedite your process or even expedite your results that you're seeking by being in part of the community. If that is what you're interested in, we at Experiment Nation happen to have a community devoted to helping maximize your occupancy and your profitability altogether, regardless of which market that you are in. And for that reason, you have an opportunity where you can go to experimentrealestate.com/submit if you're looking to work in an environment that can help you prosper faster. Call out any areas that you might not be familiar in, especially the blind spots. That's where a guide comes in hand, and I would be a pleasure and honor to be your guide. But in order to make sure you're a good fit, make sure you go to experimentrealestate.com/submit so that my team can go ahead and take it and see if you're a good fit to join the mastermind and the multiple programs that we have. In addition to that, I'm also now a YouTube partner, which means that I want to give you more access to information, more access to Q&As, more access to the questions that actually come out of our mastermind to help people expedite the process. We've seen people get anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 to even $7,000 a month net on just one door by applying the strategies that we use by working with corporations and furnished accommodation in a very strategic way. So if you're interested, make sure you also subscribe, because I'm going to have different tiers that's on YouTube now that we've become YouTube partner, to continue to be the bridge to your success in your lab. And your lab means your life, your goals, or wherever you're trying to head. So make sure you also hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/real estate experiment. We'll be there. You can also look us up at Midterm Rental Insurance Experiment. We will be there. Make sure you hit the subscribe, because that's when you'll know the tiers that are available to you that make sense for you, your marketplace, for your results. Remember, you're only one experiment away. Let's build.